And her son, Paul Sills, loved the games, and he taught them to his friends, people like Mike Nichols and Elaine May. And that group formed the first pure improvisational theater in modern America. This is in 1955, and that group was called the Compass Players. Essentially, that morphed into the Second City, which primarily used that improv to then create scripted scenes, and that opened on December 16th of 1959.
The Second City. So I love this compilation of some of our favorite comedians and comedic actors speaking really highly of their time at Second City. It's a lovely ode to how this improv studio has really shaped these various careers. And I really love seeing how each comedian is giving props to other comedians that came from this similar place. We see how they all came from these similar improv backgrounds. And it really is, a great testament to what this organization has been able to provide to young actors and how it has been able to shape some of the greatest comedic minds that we have today.
This was great. I really enjoyed this. Maybe a little bias. I did go to Second City, Toronto myself. I went through the whole program there, and it was everything that you hear described in this documentary, which was really well put together. It was great to see so much footage and then hear from actual people like Bob Odenkirk and then the producer there. It was just spot on. Really is how it's being described there, and this documentary just did a great job at presenting it in a way that was authentic and really gave you an idea of the scope of just how fantastic Second City really is. It was just really strong documentary, and I enjoyed it.
Second City or the Second City, it's something that I'd heard of before. I think that if you are a fan of comedy, if you're a fan of SNL, if you have thought of or know anybody that is kind of in the improv space or sphere, or has even taken an improv class, at some point you've probably heard of Second City, especially if you watch interviews with a lot of like the very big names that came out of SNL and Second City themselves, which they definitely mentioned in the film, which I thought was really great and really just kind of spoke to how successful and how many people kind of got their start there or used that as an avenue into something much larger and much more mainstream and much more kind of like of a household name. And I loved kind of hearing the history of it. Like I said, it's something that I had definitely heard of before, but I didn't really know what it was about. I didn't really, beyond the fact that it was an improv theater, improv company, I didn't really know that much about it. I didn't realize that they did a scripted show plus then a pure improv set. I didn't know that they taught classes. I, didn't know that they had a touring show. Like, I didn't know any of that. So I thought like learning all of that was really, really great. And then when you're talking about, all of the people that have gone through Second City and, come out of it, and it's just like such an impressive group of people. It's such an impressive group of comedians, and you hear in the interviews that they had, and they had such great interviews as a part of this film, which I thought was fantastic, but you hear them talk about the impact that Second City had on them. I thought that was so great, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun to hear about the start here, about the Second City in a little bit more context, and also to hear about like the relationship between that and SNL, because there are rumors, and when you know that there's so many people that have gone through one to get to the other, there's always going to be this kind of idea that there's friction between the two, but that's not necessarily true. Sometimes they can work in conjunction with each other, and it sounds like that's the case, and it's only going to serve for better, more comedians in larger spotlights, which I think is great. I think everybody could use a little more comedy. Everybody could use a reason to laugh. And I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. I thought it was informative, and it was just something that was really fun for me to learn about.
I loved Second City. As somebody who knows the lore, or at least thought I knew the lore, I knew the broad strokes of the lore. SNL, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Stephen Colbert, all of that got their start. SNL, Second City, blah blah blah. As a fan of improv, or at least a casual of improv, this was right up my alley. Yo, I always say the strength of a documentary rise and dies on the subject matter. And this, for me, a pairing of subject matter and audience, top 10. Like, I was locked in, yo. The origins and like all the different Bob Odenkirk interview and great work, yo. Like, genuinely interesting and like this is something I would watch on Netflix, on cable on Saturday, on CNN or something. Great work. 10 out of 10.